Hello everyone, welcome back to Aesop's Fables. This will be the very last of the Aesop's Fables. It will be the end of the episodes, all done after this. Hercules and Plutus. When Hercules was received among the gods and was entertained at the banquet by Jupiter, he responded courteously to the greetings of all, with the exception of Plutus, the god of wealth. When Plutus approached him, he cast his eyes upon the ground and turned away and pretended not to see him. Jupiter was surprised at this conduct on his part, and he asked why, either having been so cordial with all the other gods, he had behaved like that to Plutus. Sire, said Hercules, I do not like Plutus, and I will tell you why. When we were on earth together, I always noticed that he was to be found in the company of scoundrels. I'm not sure what that means, but I reckon it's some sort of old god reference or hero reference or something. The fox and the leopard. A fox and a leopard were disputing about their looks. Each claimed to be the most handsome of his own. The leopard said, Look at my smart coat. You have nothing to match that. But the fox replied, Your coat may be smart, but my wits are smarter still. Well, that's true. Foxes are quite intelligent, I'll tell you. The fox and the hedgehog. A fox, in swimming across a rapid river, was swept away by the current and carried along way downstream in spite of his struggles, until at last, bruised and exhausted, he managed to stumble on dry ground from a backwater. As he lay there unable to move, a swarm of horseflies settled on him, sucked his blood undisturbed, for he was too weak to even shake them off. A hedgehog saw him and asked if he should brush away the flies that were tormenting him, but the fox replied, Yes, please. No, not on my account, for these flies have sucked their fill and are taking very little from me now. But if you drive them off, another swarm of hungry ones will come and suck all the blood I have left and leave me without a drop in my veins. Oh, it's kind of sad. The crow and the raven. A crow became very jealous of a raven because the latter was regarded by man as a bird of omen which foretold the future, and was accordingly held in great respect by them. She was very anxious to get the same sort of reputation herself, and one day, seeing some travellers approaching, she flew onto the branch of a tree at the roadside and called as loud as she could. The travellers were in some dismay at the sound, for they feared it might be a bad omen. To one of them, saying and spying the crow, turned to his companions. It's all right, he was saying. My friends, we can go on without fear, for it's only a crow, and that means nothing. The lesson in that is, those who pretend to be something they are not only make themselves ridiculous. Well, I know that is true. The witch. A witch professed to be able to avert the anger of the gods by means of charms, of which she alone possessed the secret, and she drove a brisk trade and made a fat livelihood out of it. But certain persons accused her of black magic and carried her before the judges and demanded that she should be put to death for dealings with the devil. She was found guilty and condemned to death, and one of the judges said to her as she was leaving the dock, You say you can avert the anger of gods. How comes it then that you failed to disarm the enmity of man. Which means, well, why can't she get away then? If she's so successful with the charms, why is she still being executed? The old man and death. An old man cut himself a bundle of faggots in a wood and started to carry them home. He had a long way to go and was tired, and before he had got much more than halfway, casting his burden on the ground, he called upon death to come and release him from his life of toil. The words were scarcely out of his mouth when, as such to his dismay, death stood before him and professed his readiness to serve him. But he was almost frightened out of his wits, and he had enough presence of mind to stammer out, "Good sir, if you be so kind, pray help me with my burden again." He didn't really want to die, obviously. It was just, when we get tired and we throw things down and stuff, it's one of those situations, isn't it, where we just say things that we don't actually mean. I mean, he never expected death to appear. That's not what he expected at all. The hawk, the kite, and the pigeons. The pigeons in a certain dovecote were persecuted by a kite, who every now and then swooped down and carried off one of their number. So they invited a hawk into the dovecote to defend against their enemy. But they soon repented of their folly, for the hawk killed more of them in a day than the kite had done in a whole year. Dear me, that's not very good. This is Prometheus and the making of man. At the bidding of Jupiter, Prometheus set about the creation of man and the other animals. Jupiter, seeing that mankind, the only rational creatures, were far outnumbered by the irrational beasts, bade him redress the balance, and you need to turn some of the latter into men. Prometheus did as he was bidden, and this is the reason why some people have the forms of man, but the souls of nothing but beasts. Wow. The swallow and the crow. A swallow was once boasting to a crow about her birth. "I was once a princess," said she, "the daughter of a king of Athens. But my husband used me cruelly, and cut out my tongue for a slight fault. Then, to protect me from further injury, I was turned by Juno into a bird." "You chatter quite enough as it is," said the crow. "What, well, what do you think it'd be like if you hadn't lost your tongue?" "'Cause I can't think, but I'm sure it would be pleasant." The hunter and the horseman. A hunter went out after game and succeeded in catching a hare, which he was carrying home with him, when he met a man on horseback, who said to him, "You had some sport, I see, sir," and offered to buy it. The hunter readily agreed, but the horseman had no sooner got the hare in his hands than he set spurs to his horse and went off at full gallop. The hunter ran after him, but for some little distance. Soon dawned upon him that he'd been tricked, and he gave up trying to overtake the horseman, and to save his face, called after him as loud as he could, "All right, sir, all right, take your hare. It was meant all along as a present." Well, at least he tried to sort of say that it was a present rather than he'd stolen it, because that's what he'd done, stolen his hare. The nightingale and the swallow. A swallow, conversing with a nightingale, advised her to quit the leafy coverts where she made her home, and to come and live with man like herself, nest under the shelter of their roofs. But the nightingale replied, "Time was when I too, like yourself, lived among men, but the memory of the cruel wrongs I then suffered makes them hateful to me, and never again will I approach their dwellings. The lesson in that is, a scene of past sufferings revives painful memories. The Traveller and Fortune. A traveller exhausted with fatigue after a long journey sank down at the very brink of a deep well and presently fell asleep. He was within an ace of falling in when Dame Fortune appeared to him and touched him on the shoulder, cautioning him to move further away. "Wake up, good sir, I pray you," she said. "Had you fallen into the well, the blame would have been thrown not on your own folly, but me, Fortune." Meaning that if he'd fell into the well, it would have been bad fortune, bad luck, that they would have blamed Fortune, the goddess. That's the end of Aesop's Fables. And I know that there are many more out there of Aesop's Fables, but we've done quite a lot already. And I have enjoyed them, though some of them quite strange and bizarre, and some I don't understand. Some even have weird words in them that I'm not sure about either. But very interesting, though. Very interesting indeed. And I like fables are used to tell lessons, and they put animals in place of men and women, and you have to listen to it to understand what it truly means, I guess. So that's it, the end of Aesop's Fables. The full episode's complete, and there are no more now. Thank you for tuning in and listening to all of the wonderful fables. It does mean a lot. And many blessings.